my friends. It's me, Kirsten, and this is the It's Giving Mystical podcast. And this is your weekly card pull for the week ahead. The week of, where are we? March 15th. Hi, how you doing? How was last week for you? The last week for you? How is this time of transitioning and straightening and clarifying? Isn't it interesting that Pisces energy is so diffuse and yet it's so revealing? Like, I don't know what your experience of the past week has been, but a lot of clarification, a lot of oh, right. Just to say a word about this idea of curiosity as a spiritual concept, as a tool in self-development. Curiosity is literally the energetic opposite of judgment. I would just offer it to you as a tool, and hopefully you already employ it, you already use it, but curiosity is one of those things, it's like one of those things that we know we should use, we know we should apply to a situation, especially when we're in reactivity, especially when we're in compression or contraction or stress, but easier said than done, harder to do in the moment than it is to talk about it here on this podcast, you and me. The idea of curiosity is that you really don't know so much, and you definitely don't know what you don't know. And we are all dynamic. And we live in dynamic environments, and we relate with dynamic being, and we live in a dynamic universe. We are basing our assumptions, our judgments on what has happened, what we have experienced, what patterns have come together, what patterns have emerged, what things feel familiar. And it robs us of potential, and it robs us of the ability to see more widely than the narrative that we've created. For better or worse, some of the stories we tell are beautiful stories, and some of the stories we tell are challenging stories, and all of the stories we tell are limiting stories. The reason we craft things into a narrative, the reason we organize our thoughts, our experiences, our lives into a narrative is because that's the way the brain works. It wants to create pattern, it wants to create meaning in a slightly chaotic and wild and vast universe. So curiosity reminds you of that. Curiosity reminds you that you really don't know, and you definitely don't know what you don't know. And so when you approach a situation where your body, your field, your mind, your heart has a thought of, I've seen this before, this pattern looks familiar. Pattern recognition, our beautiful brains. When that happens, when we can take a deep breath and say, well, what about this am I not seeing? I'm curious what's happening here. I'm curious why my body is so attuned to that pattern, why this dynamic makes me feel such a familiar feeling. It's not that we're fixing it, but we're allowing, it's like the same thing as taking a full breath, allowing yourself a full exhale. We're just expanding the space around the experience a little bit more. And those little expansions, micro expansions, and maybe even macro expansions are just so powerful. They're incredibly, incredibly important in terms of allowing you to reframe, to experience something in a new way. I had an experience with my current partner. We got in an argument, and he was mad and wasn't communicating with me. The feeling I had in my body was so big, so big. And obviously went through all my reactive stuff, but then I really got curious because he's a good man, and the feeling in my body was so enormous. And I thought to myself, it doesn't match. I might not be happy with him right now, but this doesn't match. And when I thought about it, I realized I was feeling something, a much larger pattern in my life that had caused me a lot of pain. And so in this moment of conflict we were having, I was feeling all of the pain of all of the times I'd had that experience. And the cool thing about that is I was able to clarify that for myself, see that clearly, and take the pressure off of him and I to feel into why my body, my heart felt such a big feeling around this. And then I was able to see what the pattern was that my body was recognizing. My nervous system was kicking into gear, this is how we handle this. And I was able to say, okay, look, that's an experience you've had over many years in many different situations that you have worked very hard to step away from, worked very hard to not be engaged in that way, to not have that be a dynamic that's in your life. Here's a man who's very good to you. That pattern's emerging. It's really not about what's happening with him because that's not a pattern that you guys have together. And I was able to say, oh, actually, let me see. This is the thing I actually really scares me. This is the thing I don't want. And I was able to say to him, listen, I know this is what happened for us, but I want you to hear the bigger thing that was happening for me. And I want you to know this is aligned for me. This is something that I won't have in my life. I won't have in my relationships. Can you hear that? Can you work with that? And he was like, of course. And I have to say that was quite a while ago, that pattern, that one request I have, it's never happened between us again. I can't tell you the healing that that does to my own body, to my own heart. I can't tell you how that allows me to be more curious and generous with him time over time. I offer that example without getting like too much into the weeds on it because it's such a beautiful possibility. We're having these moments all day long. We're doing this pattern recognition all day long. And in the moments where that's not working for us or where that's creating some kind of contraction, to be able to say, this is so interesting. Like my body, my heart, my mind, it does such interesting, curious things. Let me just sit with that. Let me get curious about that. Let me not make assumptions. Let me not judge what that means. Let me not criticize myself or shame or blame myself for that, or shame or blame others for that. The classic, if they would be different, then I'd feel better. We know that trap. So this idea of like accountability, but with such generosity, such curiosity of, I'm such a lovely human doing my best to find peace and safety and love and connection in the world. Let me think about why this feels like the way to do that, or this feels like something I have to arm myself against for that to happen. This whole world unfolds. I have one client, and the first time I met her, she used this phrase. She said, unfurling into my space. I'll never forget that. That's the energy of curiosity. That's the energy of love. And that's the energy of expansion. Let me unfurl into this moment. Let me unfurl into this reaction. Let me unfurl into this experience and see what else. I can feel so many transitions, and quite painful ones for some people. Very revealing, kind of make you naked or make the experience naked kind of experiences, like, oh wait, that's not what I thought it was. The masks are coming down, the illusions are falling away, and curiosity is such our ally in that. It's just our ally to not need to make anyone right or wrong, not need to make a situation right or wrong or good or bad, but just to really lean back into how interesting. I wonder about this. I wonder about the way I'm feeling. I wonder about the way they're acting. I wonder about why this is in my life, because that's the other important thing in all of this. We might have an idea of where we should be. We might have an idea of where we want our life to be. And then there's the reality of where we are. And as your older, wiser sister and guide, I would say to you that life makes no mistakes. Where you are, what's in front of you, what life is confronting you with is exactly right. And one of the fastest ways to move past that, move with that, move along with that, appreciate that, is to be curious about why. I wonder why this is where I am. I wonder what life is trying to show me or teach me or heal for me, with me in this experience. Try it out. Curiosity, it's just such a winning tool. And I know I say it a lot on this podcast, I say it a lot in the world, but it was important for me to just bring it up today. It felt like, let's just talk about that a little bit more, because I am curious as to why the deck gave me the 8 of Cups again. So when I pulled the card this week, the card that came up was the 8 of Cups. We were just here. So think about this trajectory, this transition. 8 of Cups, death, 8 of Cups. Something is persisting. Something is a through line in this transition we're in. So we talked about the 8 of Cups being this idea of walking away from what works, walking away from what you worked for, to find some deeper level of satisfaction and to follow the beat, the rhythm, the pulse of your desire. So I'll bring up these red boots again. But one of the reasons these red boots matter is not only is he protected, so he's cloaked in red, so he's protected by his desires. So it's like you will not be led astray. Like I just said, life is showing you something for a reason. Love is opening your heart towards something, your curiosity, your momentum, your energy towards something for a reason. You don't have to see the whole path laid out before you. You don't have to know exactly where the road is taking you to know that these steps are right. These boots say that it's almost undeniable. So what these red boots are saying is that the desire is moving your feet, it's animating your body, is kind of forcing you out onto the road, out onto the new path. There's like a surrender required in that. An acceptance of, like I was just saying, this is what needs to happen now. And again, because the 8 is this interesting pattern where there's one missing and there's so much order to the cups, there just sends the sensibility of, it should feel good. Like this should be what I want. This is like what I've worked for. There were a version of me from the past that set these cups up just so. that found real contentment and satisfaction in the way these things were. And I'm not that person anymore. And so there's an element of grief in that. And you can see how 8 of Cups, death, 8 of Cups, is maybe an awareness around what needs to transition, what needs to shift, what needs to be shed, so that you can really follow this path. It's kind of this micro moment that reminds me of that larger trajectory that I've been talking about between 2022, 2023, and 2024. 2022, choose your lane. 2023, life will make you ready for it in this kind of mysterious, often baffling way. And then 2024, step out onto the field, step out onto the road, show up, like hit that mark, get out there on the stage. This is kind of this mini moment of this too, right? Like, oh, right, this is where I need to go. I need to really be serious about my heart, my desire, my satisfaction. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed my next breath. I'm not guaranteed that this world that sits here with me today, this tableau that sits here with me today, I might love it, I might hate it. It is guaranteed to change. So whatever's happening for me here, whatever's calling me forward, there might be grief. There might be grief about, and it might be little grief, it might be big grief, it might be confusing, it might be disorienting. So I, again, invite in that curiosity. Why is this hard for me right now? Why am I unsure? Where do my doubts lie? Why am I judging myself for what I know to be true? Journal on that, think about that, get curious with that. But the idea is maybe there's something that needs to be grieved. So if you can think about my oldest daughter, right, is getting ready to go to college, getting ready to make some big decisions in her life. I have every right, I'll start crying thinking about it, to grieve the version I was when I became a mother. Like when I just could not adore my children more. But that moment when she was born, it changed my whole life. Becoming a mother was just fundamental for me. I read something, what's that? Oh, Hello, Beautiful. And she talks about how when she became a mother, she was like, oh, that's been me. I was here the whole time. Like I've been living this life, but I've been waiting for my child to arrive. I think there's something about that I don't feel quite aligned to, but I do feel very aligned to this idea that when she came and I saw her beautiful face, told the story before, I loved her immediately, but I also really liked her and I really recognized her. And the thought I had was, oh shit, we've done this before. I like you. You are someone I like to do life with. So when she came, that was so precious. That is something I hold in my heart. It's an experience that my body has had, oriented my world around, and it's changing, right? It's not going to be the same. I am so excited about what's next for her. I'm in love with her, in love with the life she's building, in love with who she's just like blossoming into herself more and more. It's so cool to watch, and it won't be like it was. So I can feel the simultaneous joy and expansion, excitement. Like, I don't know, it's so cool to be her mom at this age in her life. And I can feel the grief for the fact that that time that we had when she was younger won't come back. That's just one example that pops into my mind, and you're going to have a million different versions of that. But this idea of it will not be the same, that alone causes grief. That alone causes pain. And I don't know where it came up. I don't know what I was talking about or if it was on a podcast or not. There is a little bit of a thing that happens. It was something, I think it was around the death card. You can grieve the role you played. Like I can grieve myself as a young mother. That was a whole experience, and I'm not her anymore, for better and for worse. Like it's a different me that's here today. Sometimes I do some of the same old wacky behaviors, but I've also learned a ton, 10,000 hours, right, of parenting. Like I've learned a ton from being with my children for over the years we've been together. And I can still grieve the fact that importance I had as a mother to a baby is different now. I have different importance to her. Awesome. And there's grief, both and that's again where the curiosity comes in. It's not about making assumptions about whether I'm okay or not okay, whether it's good or bad. It's just this curiosity of, I wonder what's happening in my heart that I can feel both such excitement and such like longing and sadness. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that curious? So whatever that version of, that's just one, thread in my life, but like whatever that version is for you, it's something to think about. The 8 of Cups is a call. It is a call that also requires surrender. So it's both this movement towards and this relaxing of what you've done before, this relaxing of what has worked before, this relaxing of what has satisfied you before. You go back and listen to the other week of the Eight of Cups if you want more details on the basics of this card. But I really want you to appreciate that where your feet, where your desire is carrying you right now, what is opening up for you, exciting you, there's something to that. And so trust that momentum, trust where life is with you right now. Trust that there are no mistakes and that it all adds up to one, and there is no wasted breath. There is no wasted breath. Again, whatever the tableau looks like, how can you be more in it? How can you unfurl into what is, knowing that life's one promise is that it will change and that you will change along with it. You can fight it all you want. You're changing too. This idea of the road opening up, this idea of these booties calling you forward, kind of propelling you forward, and the surrender of going even if you don't know why, going even if you can't see the whole road ahead of you, going even if you're unsure, even if you're sad that you're not the person who wanted to stay. You're not the person who was satisfied with those 8 cups. You're the person who's calling for that 9th cup. And that is a really healthy thing, because I don't care how old you are, I don't care where you find yourself, life and love are always calling for more of you, are calling for more experience. Like, this is precious. Being here embodied on this earth is a very unique experience and a very precious experience. Embrace this life as fully as you can with curiosity and wonder and excitement, dude. Because when it's over, when you look back, that's what you're going to remember. You're going to remember the moments where you tried, where you pushed, where you weren't sure, but you walked anyway. That seems to be what the 8 of Cups is reminding us of. Curiosity and wonder for the win. And whatever your heart's calling you for, like, trust yourself. Trust yourself. Act in integrity. Make choices that are going to work for you tomorrow as well as today, but make choices with wonder, with curiosity, with excitement about what might be possible. What that 9th cup, what that wishing cup might bring into your life. Check you later. Have a great weekend. Get your tax paperwork done if you're not doing your taxes yourself. I think today's the day. Just wishing you guys so much love and so much breath, so you remember to stay curious. It's a magical, mystical, vast, wild world that we live in. Get curious about what could happen next. Bye. It's giving everything is sacred. It's giving art. It's giving light you up and turn you on and set you free. It's giving curiosity. It's giving freedom. It's giving love. It's giving you are more magical and powerful than you can comprehend. It's giving, I don't know what's happening, but I am so here for it. It's giving you are pure potential. It's giving mystical.